Well, Mets Wrap 360 starts now?
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Don't do it. No music. We do not deserve any music this week. No! No Meet the Mets, no celebratory, nothing to try and make me feel better. We, as Met fans, do not deserve to feel better. Although, I can't help it because I do feel a little bit better because, first of all, welcome to Mets Wrap 360. We're on Twitter at ABTV Mets. I'm Christian Bladt, at Christian DMZ. I'm rejoined by one of the other two Musketeers on the show, Andrea Fasano, making a triumphant return at Andy Fasano. And she's traveled a little bit, and she'll talk about that. She's got some great stories, but besides the point, you know, she's back, and Matt was going to be here, then he was under the weather. This was going to be the first time we did the show together, the three of us, in more than a month.
In a couple shows.
Yeah, and the last time we did the show together was July 10th, and the Mets were 6 games over 500 back then, and they're now 1 game over 500, which is a lot better than they looked like they were going to be.
Yeah.
So, you know, they've been a terrible team, and I've got a lot to say about that. But here's the crazy thing about it. They're a terrible team, barely above average, and they're 2.5 games out of the wild card. Now, granted, they've got the Marlins, the Padres. Not the Padres. The Madres. The Madres. That's a new team. The Madres.
That would be an awesome team with an awesome drink served at their stadium.
Yeah, a couple of Madre coladas. Yeah. So the Marlins, the Pirates, and the Cardinals are all ahead of them. Now, the Marlins just lost Giancarlo Stanton for the year, by the way. I just read that. And you don't cheer for a player to be injured and be out for the season. But you can cheer for the team to be much worse when he's gone, which the Marlins ought to be. The Pirates very up and down, and the Cardinals, it's rough. So it's possible. They just have to actually play with a little bit of heart. And unfortunately, that is not something that they've done. Last week on the show, I said the Mets needed to win 7 of the next 9 games. That includes the 3 that are about to come up this week. Our guest, David Weiss, Salmon from the Dennis Miller Show, he said that this week they would go 2-4. And I was like, he's such a curmudgeon. He's so pessimistic. But who knew that, 2-4 was the pipe dream, the best case scenario after Thursday. So
really, he predicted that?
He did.
That's
but
pretty cool.
He's always dead. Yeah, it's not that cool.
Well,
he had a good sense, but he just he's a little bit older than me. He's been rooting for the Mets, for so long.
Right.
He just kind of knows. So I don't want to spend too much time on the series, the specific games of the series against the Diamondbacks. Tuesday,
who does?
Tuesday and Wednesday were very winnable games. Thursday got out of hand really quickly, and we're going to start with Thursday. A 9-0 game that started at noon Eastern, where it was apparently sweltering hot.
Sweltering.
Thank God I was watching it from the comfort of my own home. However, Andrea,
yes,
I think you have a little story and some photos to share with the audience.
Yes, I was surprised with tickets. My uncle had an extra ticket, and I happened to be in the New York area visiting them. I was with family, for almost 2 weeks, and I got to see them, and it was really great because I have 4 little cousins, and they're all Mets fans. And so, actually, re-watching the recap of that game, I caught them on. I should have sent him that picture.
Oh, really? The kids were on.
It's like really in the corner, but one of the hits went over there, and
one
so
of
you see them.
The many hard hit balls by the Diamondbacks.
Sadly, sweltering, I don't think describes it. Like it's literally
it was more
those
than 100,
moments
right?
Where you sit and you're just melting.
Yeah, well,
like
the first picture,
absolutely melting.
Well, any of the pictures we have, you can see the clouds in it.
Yeah,
and having grown up in New York, I remember those are those days where the air is so heavy, there's moisture in the air. You're like, oh, I hope it rains because it'll like.
And
feel
it looked like it
but
would.
Then it just doesn't. It's like it's too hot. The
no,
rain's like
after the game it did.
Yeah.
As soon as we were pulling out of the parking lot.
Right. Whereas the Mets could have really used that game to have been rained out after the second inning.
So I was
a beautiful day.
It was, and it's a beautiful shot. Like first of all, I took that with my iPhone. Like I think that's pretty great.
That's a great photo for the iPhone.
And the reason, guys, why I was up so high.
For everybody listening on iTunes, it's just a great shot. A little bit, some gray clouds, but it's a great shot of Citi Field from where Andrea was sitting.
And so I was sitting up high because, as I explained, so my uncle gets these tickets. He got 3 from work, which are field level seats.
Awesome.
Right? Like awesome left field level seats, like right down there. And then he has 4 kids. So he couldn't just take like 2 of the kids.
Yeah.
So he had to buy 3 more tickets. So he got like the nosebleeds. And so me, his wife, my aunt, and my little cousin, she's a girl who was just like, I'm hot. Like she didn't care. She's like 7 years old. She didn't care about the game. She was just, poor kid was
She just
dying.
wanted some Carvel.
That's all she wanted.
I don't
And they
blame her.
got it. But like, that's all they wanted. So then I swapped with one of the twins and went down there because I was like, you field level? Yeah. This guy's sweating. Bring him up. So we went down. My Uncle Joe. That's my cousin Joe. You know, we're Italian.
So
you
Uncle
name everyone
Joe, Cousin Joe.
Yeah.
Your name's Girl Joe.
Yeah, right. So it was awesome. We had great seats and we were sweltering as they were getting murdered. And, you know, it comes to a point where you just stop paying attention. And I hadn't seen them in a while. So we were just, you know, talking and kvetching and having fun and catching up. And there was a guy who looked like Donald Trump sitting next to me.
So
it
you
was
thought
just like
maybe it
a
was Trump?
lot. Yeah, a lot of interesting things going on. But look how close. Like that
You're
was
so
amazing.
close. No, that's great.
And we saw the T-shirt shooter, trying to win him a shirt.
The Mets Party Patrol, they come out with the T-shirt cannons.
Mr. Met was right there, like right
when you
down
can get that
at-
close to Mr. Met, it's a good
Come
day,
on, it was so awesome.
See, that's the thing. Look, as Mets fans, I think a lot of us have had those days where we have a great day out at the ballpark, except for what happened on the field.
Yeah,
it's fun to be there. It's great. You get to talk to other Mets fans.
Yeah.
You get to see Mr. Met, you know, probably buy a T-shirt or something, you know, and it's always fun.
And that was only my second visit to the new City Field.
Right.
Like Shea, obviously, I'd been to a ton when I was
but,
younger, but since I've moved to LA, that was only my
a lot
second
harder.
time. So I thought that was really great.
Great.
And fun.
So, miserable game, but you still
Despite
had
the
fun.
game, yeah.
However, you do have something to show the audience.
I do.
Those watching on camera. This is very exciting. You can talk about it. First, model it for our YouTube viewers,
Okay,
please.
guys.
So
I saw you, like, when I introduced myself, but, like, come on with this right now.
Look at that. So it is a blue cape
Isn't that
with
awesome?
orange lettering that says New York for everybody listening on iTunes.
Like, I had to wear
And
my
so
shirt.
that's your
'cause
Mets
It's been a
cape.
while.
Now-
This is my Mets. I'm wearing this every show.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to wear it every show.
Yeah.
You know, unless somehow we decide that the cape has become bad luck, in which case we'll set it on fire.
Right. I did a lot of fun stuff while I was in New York, and this was the prize of one of them. So.
And by the way, in case anybody's wondering, the Cabernet is sitting at home. It is nowhere near the studio. We were not drinking today. We'll talk a little bit about Reyes this week, but we'll get to it. So anyway, I'm glad you went.
Thanks.
Sorry you had such a terrible game.
I know.
The fact of the matter is, the Diamondbacks are a bad team, and not just like, oh, they're under. No, they're an epically bad team, like all-time bad, and they embarrassed the Mets at home in a way that I haven't seen in a long time. Like maybe 2013 when the Nats beat them 17 out of 19 times, like, you know, and just taking the extra base, just running. And here's the thing, though, they're a bad team, but they hustled. And they played hard, and they played with heart, and the Mets did not do that in any of those 3 games. That was a miserable performance, and I was really glad that Terry Collins vented to the media. It wasn't one of those tirades that goes on for 20 minutes. It was just, he was angry, he was disgusted, he got right to the, right to the heart of the matter. And, you know, it's a good thing Travis d'Arnaud started hitting literally the next day, because when you're getting run on that much and so many stolen bases, the Diamondbacks stole 12 bases in that series. They set a record for the Diamondbacks. I don't think but it was also a record for the Mets, allowing the most, for the Diamondbacks stealing the most. And it was like, hey, this guy's not hitting. Why not get any of the minor league catchers who also can't hit but can throw out base runners? Because he's not, but now he's hitting. So now it's like, all right, well, let's see how it goes.
We'll take
I would
that.
still be ready to replace Travis d'Arnaud in his second. So at the trade deadline, I was like, they don't need Jonathan Lucroy. They already have a good catcher. I forgot that I was just very attached to the lowercase d and the apostrophe. So no, they don't have a good catcher. For some reason, I like this guy because I end up liking everybody on the team. I hear somebody around here likes Kelly Johnson.
I do.
And I talked about him last week. It does seem like every time he gets up, he hits a home run.
That's what I'm saying.
He pinch hits, he gets a home run. If he starts, he'll go 1 for 3 or 1 for 4. The one's a home run.
And can I tell you I was around a lot of Yankee fans as well this week, and I feel like a lot of people don't know that there's a Kelly Johnson on the Mets, and I'm like...
That it's the same Kelly Johnson that was on the Yankees at one point.
Right. So they just go, no, that's not him. And I'm like, yeah, it is. Like, you know, and I have to defend the Mets and him.
And you
I'm
know
like,
what?
guys, I know what's going on.
Yeah, you do know what's going on. So that was aggravating. And as I say most every week, it's so good that we don't do this show on Wednesday or Thursday. Because if we did it on the middle of the week, like I probably would be, in a heap on the floor having had a heart attack. I would have burst a blood vessel in my eye.
You'd be drunk off the wine just because
I would have smashed open the wine and just
Totally.
started drinking it, and probably cut my face on some of the shards. But it would have helped me feel, It's like people who cut themselves. But anyway, so they lost on Friday. However, they did show hard on Friday, and I liked that. What I didn't like was Logan Verrett getting another start when we all knew he needed to be out of the rotation anyway. And what does he do? Given the opportunity, throw a lifeline. Oh, thanks. Oh, I'm going to spot another terrible team, 5 runs in the first inning. So, yeah, that was shameful. Now, maybe Logan Verrett's a nice guy, but I was so relieved to hear that they sent him down to Las Vegas. I'm like, good. I'd like to not see him the rest of the year. I've seen more than enough Logan Verrett. I've probably seen more than enough John Neese, but let's see how that goes. We'll roll the dice for a little while. So the thing about that game, though, is that, the Mets did lose, but they should have been able to win a game where they scored 6 runs. Now, maybe, the Padres eased up on the pedal a little bit, and they were able to score those 6 runs. But they fought hard, and that was very encouraging, But I swore I was going to turn that game off when it was 5-0. And I was just like, I can't do it. But then I was like, no, because what if this is like an epic comeback? And as it's going along, I'm like, they're getting closer. Are they going to do it? No, of course they didn't do it. They're the Mets. They didn't do it.
Of course they didn't do it.
The 2015 Mets would have done it. The 2000 Mets would have done it. 1986 Mets wouldn't have even been in that situation.
Right.
But the 2016 Mets aren't going to come out of that. So I put it on my phone, and I was like making dinner and stuff, and I kept watching. I'm like, but I was like, passively watching. That was like a semi-silent protest, although I still had the game on. So anyway, so that would have been amazing, but it didn't happen. So it was exhausting how angry I am at all.
On Friday. Wow.
I know.
Good thing it was the weekend.
I know. Then the weekend comes, and I was just like, all right, well, let's see how it goes. I had a lovely Saturday. I was not really thinking about the Mets. That makes the day much better when I don't think about the Mets too much.
Just got to put them behind you for a moment.
I took my son Felix to the beach for his first ever real beach day.
Nice.
We went out to Manhattan Beach.
Oh,
Thank you.
Steven, on the money.
Right on the money, yeah. And he had so much fun. It was great. He ate a little bit of sand, but realized, that doesn't taste good. But he loved it, and the waves kept hitting into him, and he's like laughing. I'm like, great, I would have been scared, and I'm 40, and I would have been scared, but he loved it. So I was like, oh, this is so great. And I'm like, all right, I'll put the Mets game on the radio in the car, on the satellite radio. And I was like, all right, so we'll see how it goes. And I was like, at least it's Jacob deGrom, so there's a good opportunity there. And, yeah. So, and I'm thinking, like, it gets to like the 4th or 5th inning before he's given up a hit. And I'm like, oh man, I have this whole show planned where I'm so angry. But if the Mets throw a no-hitter this weekend, it's gonna just all come crashing down. And I can't be disappointed because that would be great. I had the same thought again today. But he didn't get a no-hitter, but he pitched great, was lights out. And fortunately for deGrom, he needed to be perfect in that game because giving up 1 run was 1 run too many. And Andrea, I wasn't on the show when you talked about how Familia was an MVP candidate for the first half.
Yeah.
But he really was, as evidenced by the fact that he has not been good in the second half. Case in point, blown save yesterday. So all of Jacob deGrom's hard work for naught, as they say. And they managed to get a win. It took 11 innings and a gift from the Padres, who basically made a bad throw to home plate that you'd think it was Lucas Duda in the World Series throwing to home plate. That's how bad that throw was. But you know what? You take it because it was a win.
It's a win.
In a week where there hadn't been any.
Exactly.
And it was a win that got them back to 500. And you're like, well, look, there's at least that.
Like you said, it blows my mind because I can't believe that was even possible after the terrible series with the Diamondbacks. But you know what? Like, you just go small wins.
Yeah, I know. It should almost be like hockey where, like, like severity of losses and wins are weighted. And it's like, no, you've lost a bunch of points now. So now you know what? You're not even going to play the rest of the season. You lost to the Padres.
That's how it feels.
Yeah.
But good thing it's not like that then.
Yeah. And, huge credit to Neil Walker, who many weeks ago I said that
my man's back.
He's great. He's killing the ball. He's hitting home runs.
I'm so happy.
Very excited to see that. And Asdrubal Cabrera has been on the DL, so maybe he was hurt, and so when he does come back, maybe things will be better. Right? But we'll see. So look, that part's good. Now, what I liked about Saturday's game, in addition to the fact that they actually won, was that Jose Reyes played in that game because he was doing a rehab stint in Brooklyn for the Brooklyn Cyclones. And on Friday, he went 2 for 5 with an RBI. And I was just like, well, then why is he rehabbing in Brooklyn? How about he play for the minor league team that is the New York Mets?
Yeah.
And even if he goes 0 for 5, it's not going to be worse than the lineup beforehand. So I was glad that they cut short his rehab assignment. Probably why they had him in Brooklyn instead of in Vegas.
Right.
And I don't know.
Moment's notice.
I was
He's
glad
ready
to
to
see
go.
him. Now, if he had done something crazy in these last 2 games, I probably would have brought the wine. But I was just glad to see him. So then we go to today, when Clayton Richard, who had been released by the Cubs, picked back up by the Padres. He apparently hadn't had a good year, but he looked great today, and just good enough for the Mets that Wilmer Flores and Neil Walker had home runs. And Steven Matz had the no-hitter 7 1/3 innings, so into the 8th inning. And my wife and I were going to go and do something, and it's still old school, superstitious. I can't say Steven Matz has a no-hitter. I need to keep watching the game. And I was like, okay, we're going to, yeah. Oh, yeah, we can go in a little bit. It's fine. Okay, yeah.
Stop.
And then he gave the hit up, and I'm like, all right, so Matz had a no-hitter until now. And she's like, I was wondering, you just kept staring at the screen. And I'm like, yes.
Just told her.
No, you can't just... Could I have told her? Tweet at ABTV Mets if you think I could have told her.
I'm just saying, here's how I meant that. I meant your wife would understand.
Yeah, well,
that's what I meant, not the superstition.
But once I did tell her, she understood.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I meant.
To go off on a slight tangent here. I was once at a game at Dodger Stadium. This was in 2005. Pedro Martinez was pitching for the Mets, and the Mets had a 1-0 lead going into the 8th. Pedro had the no-hitter into the 8th. And my friend Rob was with me. He had to pick up his parents at the airport, but he wasn't going to leave the game, and he couldn't tell them why he couldn't leave the game. So they kept calling him, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to leave in a little bit. I'll be there. No, I'm going to be there soon. Yeah, I'm still at the game. I'll tell you, I got to go. And then I actually forget. I remembered for a long time who this was. Somebody just hits a 2-run home run, so he loses a no-hitter. The Mets lose the game. It all happens like that.
And he's late for his parents.
Yeah,
mad late.
Yeah, so... this wasn't quite that. This was just like, we're going to get out.
That is really funny.
I don't know. So, Andrea, you were on the road, but you were keeping tabs on the Mets, of course. And, of course, the one game, keeping tabs in person.
Yeah. Sadly.
Here's the thing, though. A lot of times, if you pick a game to go to, it's like, oh, if only I'd gone to the one before or the one after. At least they were all bad.
Yeah.
All the games against the D-backs were bad.
It's not like I missed it.
If you'd gone on Friday against the Padres, that was bad, too.
And I was excited for Thor, but
Thor.
I didn't even... I was like, what? Are you there? Are you there?
He was not the mighty Thor. All
no.
Right. Another tangent. Very nerdy tangent. I don't know if there's anyone in the audience who'll appreciate this, but there's a series of Thor comics where he got turned into a frog. Okay, so he's Thor, but he's a frog. Look it up. It's on Google. I think it's the Mighty Thor, maybe 267, something like that. Yeah, I know. I'm a huge nerd. I get it. So he pitched like Thor Frog. He did not pitch like the Mighty Thor. He was Frog Thor. And I was just like, well, sometimes you get Frog Thor, but I hope that the next time that we see Syndergaard, which will be, I believe, in San Francisco, not in Arizona. And God loves Steven in the booth. He's looking for Thor Frog right now.
All ready to go.
Yeah, it's and we can show it whatever if you find it. Look, I realize it's a bit of a stretch. It's a very nerdy reference, but it works. It was the point that I could make. Yeah, was Frog Thor. Anyway, so you were excited for the game you were at because of the fact that you didn't realize that Frog Thor was going to show up. He kind of threw up, too.
He kind of did throw up.
But anyway.
No, yeah, I mean, and like you said, it's not like I missed it on either end, so it's fine. And it was exciting. I wasn't planning on going, and to get there, when Melissa was here and you guys talk about traveling a lot to go see the Mets, I get jealous, I'm kind of like, okay, I've seen them in San Diego and stuff, but it was a nice gift to be able to do that. as Steven's still searching.
Yeah, actually, Steven, there was a cover to an issue up there on the upper left, a little bit further up, right there at the
Third
bottom.
row?
Yeah, the bottom. Nope, one more down.
There
sorry.
you go.
Yep. It's,
right under that picture you just chose.
I'd point at it with a laser pointer if I could.
Up.
No, this is all right. This is good for the this is good for the iTunes listeners.
That one.
It's at the top left right now. It's a cover to a Thor comic book, and there he is.
That's it.
Believe me, for those of you watching on YouTube, this is worth it. The fact that I talked about Frog Thor,
how cool
and
is Steven though?
Just finds Frog Thor, and I saw him on there. And by the way, this is the craziest thing. Could you imagine if they made Frog Thor movie?
Oh my gosh.
So he turns into Kermit, basically. Anyway, so it was 366. Remember how I said 266?
Yeah.
I wasn't that far
No,
off.
you
I was
weren't.
only off by 100.
That's really funny.
But,
Steven
yeah.
rocks.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen. I appreciate that. And by the way, shout out to Zach, who sometimes works with us, because he found this little Mike Piazza plush doll.
It's awesome.
At his parents' house. He was back there, and he brought it in just for us so that we can add it here to my collection of toys. Mr. Met fell over.
I feel like his parents' house is like a gold mine.
Well, yeah, if a little shout out for him. If you follow him on Twitter at that Zach Wilson, he tweeted out some photos of there were apparently a ton of video games that he found, like old like video games. So he's very excited. Anyway, tangent time of the show is over.
Yes.
We're gonna look ahead to this week. Now, very quickly, the Mets are gonna try and get an opportunity to have some revenge against the D-backs. They're gonna have 3 games at Arizona starting tomorrow. And they always seem to play really well there at Chase Field. And I feel like if I'm the Mets, I'm pissed for letting myself get embarrassed that way. So, what you should probably try and do is have one of those like 22-3 games. One of those ones where like all the sportscasters think they're so funny when they say that it's a football score.
Right.
They're like, well, the Giants 3 touchdowns and the Arizona Cardinals only got a field goal. And it's like, okay, we got it. Everybody's made that joke, and I made it too. So.
For years.
Yeah, but here's the thing though: the Diamondbacks are 20 games under 500 at home. They're 19-39. Now,
wow.
I'm gonna let the Mets have a hiccup, but you better win all 3 of those games.
Right.
Even if you have to go extra innings. So I don't know. I feel pretty good about that. And the only decent pitcher that, well, before the last series, I would have said that the only decent pitcher that the Diamondbacks have is Zach Greinke. But apparently the other guys all pitched like, Zach Greinke. So, but Greinke pitched today, so they're going to miss him in this next series. So it's really a good opportunity to be out in the, it'll have the roof closed, but it'll be some nice dry air, send some home runs into that stupid pool that they have in left field. And, really just drive the ball, score a lot of runs. I feel like that's an opportunity for the Mets to do well. I don't know. How do you think that if you were on the team, you hit the road today, you get 2 wins after a really bad 4-game, first 4 games of the homestand. How do you feel if you're on the team and, you are taking the field tomorrow night in Arizona, Andrea?
Number one, I want to know how hot it is in Arizona versus how...
It's 110.
Oh, my gosh.
But it's a dry heat,
But
they
it's
always
a
say.
dry heat.
By the way, I've been in Vegas when it's 117.
Yep, me too.
It's still, I don't know how much swearing we do on the show. It's bleeping hot.
It is.
It doesn't matter that it's a dry heat.
It's not suffocating.
No, it's true.
That's the difference. People don't understand the difference. That's the difference.
It's not like someone
breathe.
standing on your chest.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like a blowing, that's the weirdest thing, that it becomes like a blowing heater on you, which is weird because you're just like, get off me, right? Like you're just like, where
that's why
is
you
this
want it to rain.
Heat fan coming from?
By the way, it's not going to rain when we're in Arizona.
No.
It's just going to be hot. The roof will be closed, but still, the few minutes you spend like between your hotel and the team bus.
It might wear on them. But here's the thing, I wouldn't be ecstatic. Like, I'm going to be honest, and I'm Miss Positive and Miss Positivity. So I mean,
you have a cape, for God's sake.
I have a cape. Yeah. Like, we've got to get a nickname for me, like something with that.
But
you
not,
guys tweet
not
us.
Frog Thor.
No,
that nickname is taken.
That.
Yeah.
But so I want to be supportive and say, kick ass. And on the road, maybe they just need to get out of town for a little bit. But
that's Keith.
They got murdered.
Keith, they did.
They just got murdered. So
they got murdered and brought back to life and murdered again.
Yeah.
And it happened, a few nights.
And I just keep seeing the Braves games like over in my head. Like,
yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like, and what we said about that. And I was like, no, they'll come back. And
yeah, and sometimes it can be hard for a team to get up against a team that they think is bad. But for the Diamondbacks, they're like, they don't care. They're just there to play. And, kind of just trying to compile individual stats, that sort of thing. But during one of the games, Keith Hernandez was talking about how badly the D-backs play at home. And he's just like, look, I loved playing in New York. I love the New York fans. But if I came up in the bottom of the ninth, in a critical spot, and I was at home, I really felt the pressure. If it happened on the road, you're a little bit more relaxed. Mm-hmm. And so hopefully it's kind of the reverse for the Mets. The D-backs can play to poor Mr. Met fell over.
Mr. Met's like,
Mr. Met's like, I can't watch. No, Mr. Met can always watch. But he's having trouble standing, though. So maybe he had some of the Cabernet wine. But anyway, so I expect good things from the Mets while they're in Arizona. Now, after that, they go to San Francisco, which is a place that they tend to not play that well. And here's the thing about the Giants, though. The Giants are really clinging on to first place in the NL West by a half game. And, I think that they're not where they want to be. And they're beatable, but it's a 4-game series. It's at San Francisco. So go ahead and take 2 of those. Go ahead, have a winning road trip. But let's just say, Madison Bumgarner's going to pitch, I think, on Thursday.
That Bumgarner name kills me.
Wow.
Rowan Gardner.
Bumgarner. Yeah. So just expect to lose that one. But, there's plenty of opportunities to beat the Giants. And then the Sunday night game is actually going to be right when we're doing the show next week. So we won't really have a comprehensive recap on the Giants series. But, if they've lost the first 3 games, I don't think it's going to matter. But they won't. I'm trying to be positive. I got all this stuff out, But I don't know. I just feel like this is, I said it before. Andrea, you weren't here. I basically had a funeral in space for the Mets season. I used some footage from Star Trek 2. Again, admitting that I'm a nerd. And the Mets season was shot off into space. And, it was very sad. Scotty played Amazing Grace on the bagpipes.
I feel like I've been crying this entire show.
I've been crying this entire week watching the damn Mets. So I feel like, there's a little sign of life, though. When you have the flat line.
Yes.
And then there's but then it goes boop. So there's just a flat line right now. And this week could go into, complete flat line, and there's no more of those.
No.
And boy, is the show going to be fun in September if that happens. No. Maybe Matt will never come back. But we do hope he's feeling better.
Yeah.
I want to hear all about Europe, about all of it, Here's the thing. If the Mets are really bad, we're going to just, let Matt tell us for an hour about his trip to Europe. It's like, where else did you go? Okay, show us some pictures.
You're right.
Oh, what did you do there? What did you have for lunch?
I think the fans would be fine with that.
I think so. I'd rather
because then nobody else would want to talk about it.
Right, exactly. So this is really, to continue that metaphor, this is the opportunity for the Mets to put the paddles on the season. You can have a really strong road trip, or at least this week, part of the road trip, because we'll talk in a second about where they go after that. But so this is a week where they've got 7 games, 3 against the D-backs, 4 against the Giants. Andrea, what do you think, for them to be competitive, what do they have to do this week? They should win all 7.
Yeah.
But and then in the way they played this week, you're like, well, hey, win at least 1.
Yes.
But at the same time,
in my head immediately, I'm like 4-3.
Yeah, I think that you got to have a winning week.
Yes.
And that's
the
best we ever hope for on the show is a winning week.
Yeah.
It's funny because when Familia blew the save last night, I was like, all right, this is going to be our first show that we do where the Mets are winless in the week.
Yes.
And I didn't know what was going to happen. I was going to be apoplectic.
I'm glad it wasn't like that.
Yeah, I am too, because it was already like this. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much more, I'm sorry for everybody in the booth watching. I'm not usually this animated, but and if Matt were here, he wouldn't have calmed me down. No, he would have ramped me up.
Totally.
He would have definitely not cheered me up. He would have encouraged me.
Between him, you guys, if you're not following us on Twitter, please do so. Follow our names; they're all below.
Yeah, and at Matt Ritter 1, at Andy Fasano, at Christian DMZ for our iTunes listeners.
Because we have Melissa Weinstein.
At Melissa Wine, yeah, she's a friend of the show who will be back in a few weeks.
And her talking about how all she's doing is eating cheese, and she just needs more cheese.
That was actually really funny.
The way that
she was just
losing
She was
is
so
driving her
stressed
nuts.
out. She kept eating cheese.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have Matt crying and then Melissa eating more
We don't
cheese.
want to cry, but
No.
if we have to cry, we'll do
Right.
it on Twitter. And of course, the show's Twitter is at ABTV Mets. So here's the problem after that, though, is that it's a 10-game road trip. So then the Mets are going to go on to St. Louis and play the Cardinals. They always play well in St. Louis. But again, this is another team that you can definitely take a couple games from easily. They're a team that by default is hanging in there for the wild card. All these teams, including the Mets, are hanging in there by default. None of these teams should be in the hunt for a wild card. Last year, none of them would have been when the wild card were both the Cubs and the Pirates, who won, I think, 95 and 94 games. And you might be able to get the wild card, with maybe like 84 wins or something. You might be just a little blip over 500 because there's some terrible teams. But that's the point, is that they really need to play well on this road trip, because I don't even care that they're playing the Phillies after that. It's like you can't embarrass yourselves. You get 10 more games, and we'll talk before they finish the road trip in St. Louis. I feel like that has to be a 6-4 road trip. But I said that this week had to, be a 4-2, and it was the reverse of that. So maybe I should start using reverse logic and say that the Mets need to go 4-6. But then I'm like, no, I can't say that.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but we'll see.
Be sane, man.
It's hard, by the way. And then they're on the West Coast, so these games are like our time now, and I'm like, oh man, I like getting the games out of the way.
Yes.
Like, as terrible as the game you were at was, it was at 9 a.m. here.
Right. The 12 noon was weird.
It was over, and I had lunch. Yeah, because they have them for camp days, so that all the kids, all the camp groups.
You had to see the amount
I've
of
been to
camps.
some of those camp days.
Oh my gosh.
Those camp
I was
days, they have like
dying.
all the different colored shirts. Like,
And because they were doing so bad, everyone left except the camp. So all you see is, like you said, pink, yellow,
Yeah.
black, blue.
yeah,
like
because
all
their
these
buses
colors.
aren't coming back for them,
Nope.
so they're like, you
They
got to
don't
stick
care.
around.
9
Yeah.
innings, man. Like, that's it. I was like, oh, you poor thing.
Yeah, I know. What a terrible, terrible camp day that was.
Kids
but,
have fun, though, no matter what. So.
Yeah, because you get to yell.
Except
and
how hot it was. Even my cousins were complaining. They were like, it's too much.
It was
So.
too much. But anyway, so these games, the games in Arizona are kind of at a weird time. They start at 6:40. So just remember that, Pacific Coast. And then the Giants games are at 7:15 and 7:15, Thursday, Friday. And then it's 1:05 Pacific time on Saturday. And then it's the ESPN 5 o'clock game on Sunday, which we've done this show one other time when it was an ESPN game. I think it was against the Dodgers. And so I'll have my phone open, and I will not be giving accounts or descriptions of the game because I do not have express written consent by the commissioner of Major League Baseball. But I can throw in a score update or two. Anyway, I'll ask you in a moment, but
Okay.
it's time for Player of the Week.
Yes.
And I'm going to tell you who Player of the Week is. You know who Player of the Week is? It's me. Because me and all the other Mets fans who stuck through this team for this terrible week and all the other terrible years we've had, let's be honest. But for a week like this, the fact that I didn't turn off that game you were at that was 9-0. I wanted to turn it off.
Clap
I
up for
wanted
you.
to turn off the next game too. Thank you. Yes.
There you go.
Thank you. A little
Yeah.
bow in frame. But if for some reason nobody wants to let me call myself Player of the Week, you want it to be somebody in uniform, Mr. Met, who I'm wearing right here for everybody. Oh yeah, wrong camera. Sorry. For everybody on YouTube, Mr. Met is the Player of the Week, because you know what? It doesn't matter how the team's doing. It doesn't matter the year that they've had. He's always got a smile on his face.
Always.
Now, granted, it's like how the Joker always has a smile on his face, but he always has a smile on his face. He's always clapping.
You are
He's always
like,
pumped up.
in rare form tonight.
I am.
And I feel like you're right. If Matt was here, it would be like to 100.
We would have both lost our voice by the end of it.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I
And for
love
some
it.
reason, Frog Thor just
I love
showed up
it.
on the screen. I love Frog Thor.
You love
But
that he
anyway,
throws up,
look,
too.
no matter how bad the team is, Mr. Met always cheers for them.
Oh my gosh, funny.
So he's definitely my Player of the Week. Do you have an actual Player of the Week, or is it also me?
I do.
Oh, okay.
It would be
Could've
you.
been me.
It would be you.
That's all
I
right.
have like a third, second, and first place.
Oh my God, I want to hear this because I don't have any of those.
Hear me out. It's only because I missed a couple shows, so
Sure,
I wasn't here.
that's
so
true.
I'm gonna say my third place, like third runner-up, is Kelly Johnson.
Because you love him.
Because I love him.
Yeah.
Thank you. Welcome. To showing up and like I
Which
said,
is great because as we talked about, they traded for him from the Braves last
Right.
year, and then they traded for him from the Braves again this year, and all he's done is kind of come up with some big hits.
But he
his
showed
average
up.
isn't great,
Right.
but he gets hits in big
But
spots, which
has the Mets overall average
No.
been great? Right.
No,
So,
they have-
I think he was like fresh blood that we kind of needed. So
Yeah, I definitely agree
think
with that.
that his like, I'm telling you, I just keep hearing his name, and I like him, and I like his presence, and that's why I'm giving him third, because I'm not saying this week was necessarily it, but I missed a few.
You got a few weeks to catch up on.
Second, my boy Neil Walker. Come on,
I agree.
He's back with the home runs.
Yeah.
I mean, at least 2 this week, and just without him, what else?
I think
is
he had
happening?
2 this weekend. So
This
yeah,
weekend, you're right,
yeah.
you're right.
Even in the losing games, he still hit well. Though.
Exactly.
Like if you were to look up what his average was for the week, it was great.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he got good hits, he got big hits, and look, he can't win the games by himself.
Right.
Neil Walker can do a lot of things. You know what he can't do? Pitch.
Right.
You know? So
Well, funny you should say that, because that brings me to my number 1 MVP of the
if
week.
you say Logan Verrett, I'm going to throw my headphones out and
Absolutely
just
not.
leave. Okay,
Absolutely.
good.
I think pitchers with V names are an issue. But anyway, that's digressing. I'm going to go with someone that I normally don't, because I think he's young, and I think his attitude sometimes gets in the way. And I feel like we've talked about the fact that I don't promote pitchers a lot, because they're
It's
either
true.
they're really like praised, or they're really dogged on. Just obviously that's their position. They deal
Yeah.
with it. And I like to give the love to the other members of the team.
To the guys
but-
that are out there every day. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm going to go with his performance today and earlier in the week on
Steven
Tuesday.
Matz.
Steven Matz.
Is it
I'm
because
gonna
he's a
go with
Long
him.
Island boy?
Of course.
Yeah, all right.
But
he almost had a no-hitter today.
I liked him, in the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And then, like we said, we had those great conversations with some of our guests talking about his attitude and how
Yeah.
he's a little immature. And I today and this week, I think he held his ground, he held his own, and I think he showed up and did his job.
He did.
And today,
he pitched well enough to win the first game.
When they were still 7 innings in, I was like, what?
Yeah.
That's great.
And
So,
he, look, the guy didn't give up a hit until the 8th inning.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, he looked great today. And that's what you want to see. You want to see the good Mets.
Right.
And we've seen it the last couple starts. He's been very inconsistent. But
that's what I was going to say. Steady. He was steady this week.
And we just need to see that more often than not. And then we'll feel a lot
Agreed.
better about him. Because, look, the rotation's banged up a bit. But if you can have DeGrom, Matz, and whether it's Frog Thor, or there's a new Lady Thor, or there's a Horse Thor, believe me, don't look it up, Steven, that'd be embarrassing. But, any Thor is going to be great. Because if you have those 3 guys, they can get you into the stretch, down the stretch, and maybe, just maybe, get to pitch in that wild card game that you'll probably lose against the Dodgers. But it's so
don't say
far off. Hey, the way that the team was playing this week, if they lose in a wild card game, I'm like, well, they didn't even deserve to get
No,
there.
it's not a surprise. It wouldn't be a surprise.
But they have great pitching,
Mm-hmm.
and Matz is a huge part of it. And I'm very encouraged by it.
Well, and that's nice that we're, like you said, second half of the season, towards the end, to see him growing.
Yeah.
Because that's what, instead of the reverse.
And they've talked a lot about it this week. Keith Hernandez has pointed out a few times that, whatever happens this season, these pitchers have all learned from it because they've had some adversity and they've had some bad outings. And, DeGrom's came at the beginning of the season. Thor's are coming right now. And, Matt's, they come and go, But I feel like all of them, they're going to have a very different approach in spring training next year. And no, we're not planning on 2017 just yet.
No.
Tune in next week when we might be talking about, who they can trade for in the offseason and all that sort of thing. But for right now, we were at DEFCON 4, all right? We're at DEFCON like 2.5 right now. I calmed down a little bit.
Yeah.
Winning those 2 games and the way they won them, to kind of lose the lead and then come back, great. And then the way that Matt's pitched today, this is the way that Matt's pitched today, the way that the offense for the opponent was today, this is the way that the whole week should have been.
Mm-hmm.
The other team should have been lucky to get a run, maybe 2 in all 6 of these games. But hey, that's baseball.
That is baseball.
And
That's why we love it.
The beauty is we'll be back here next week, and we'll have all that talk. We hope Matt's with us, but I know Andrea will be here.
Yep.
But not only will Andrea be here, the Cape will be here.
Yes!
And that's very important. And if you see the bottle of Caberets right here, then you know that we've had a good week.
Nice.
So for myself, Christian Bladt at Christian DMZ, for Andrew Fasano at Andy Fasano, and the invisible Matt Ritter at Matt Ritter1, follow us at ABTV Mets. We will see you next time on Mets Wrap 360.
Thanks for watching.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.